I wanted to explain my position a little more thoroughly on the Milo Yiannopoulos permaban on Twitter, both by way of just explaining it, but also by answering a couple of comments that were left on my recent video on the subject. Before I get into that, though, I did just want to say I've read some of the tweets that were leveled at Leslie Jones, and some of them are pretty horrific. It's really, really nasty stuff, and I've got a few ideas about this. First of all, I am an advocate for free speech, but it would make it a lot easier to be an advocate for free speech if people treated each other better. That's one of the downsides, I think, obviously, to the anonymity of the net, is it allows people to really say some very horrific things. And as a person who suffered a lot of bullying and abuse when I was younger, I can certainly appreciate how that might feel. Now, granted, as a celebrity, Leslie probably needs to get a bit of a thicker skin and understand that these things are going to happen. As Milo himself said, everyone gets death threats or whatever, for fuck's sake. But by the same token, I mean, we're all responsible for ourselves and the way we treat others. And I don't really see a necessity for that, for sure, for that kind of treatment. If I was going to give advice to someone like Leslie Jones, I would just say, just remember that those kind of comments say a lot more about the person making them than they have anything to do with you personally. And, that's what the block and the mute buttons are for, I suppose. Having said all of that, I don't think that Milo Yiannopoulos is directly responsible for inciting this behavior. He certainly didn't say, go get her, which is something that Leslie Jones herself said about another Twitter person that she was having a disagreement with. And so, there is that. A couple of people have sort of said, you've missed the boat here on this one. Milo is not being hurt by this. In fact, he's going to be bolstered by it. It's going to vault him into even greater levels of popularity. He's stirring controversy, and that's what he does. He's a provocateur. He's probably sort of provocateured his own ban on Twitter. Now, I would agree that I think there's a part of Milo that was attempting to provocateur his own ban from Twitter. But I don't think he was doing it simply as sort of a clickbaity type of a thing. I think he's trying to do it as a shit test. And I personally support that, because this is what lets me know and lets thousands, if not millions of other people know that Twitter is not the harbor for free speech that they claim to be. And they have made this statement before, that it's going to be a utility, that it is the free speech wing of the free speech party or whatever. Well, clearly not. And, even if they're going to say that this stops short of inciting harassment, campaigns of harassment, what Milo Yiannopoulos did does not fall into that category, yet they still chose to ban him. And that just lets me know this. The other thing too, of course, is that whether or not Milo Yiannopoulos was attempting to provocateur his own ban from Twitter, I don't think this incident falls into that category. I don't think he expected to be banned from Twitter based on this little exchange. Maybe, but I kind of doubt it. It just was not strong enough on his part. And again, this is evidenced by the fact that he really didn't fall afoul of their terms of service, as it's read, right off their site. So that being what it is, my video is not about Milo Yiannopoulos. The whole point is the signal that it sends to everyone else about their speech on Twitter. And again, I understand it's a private company. They can do what they want. And that's why I'm not calling for any action against Twitter, other than for people to seek an alternate, somewhere where we can know, at least for the period of time that it remains that way, that the new platform is going to allow people their speech. There's also the instant of what I called revisionist history, and we'll get to that in a moment with my response to another message here. But I did just want to say, my video is not about Milo. I'm not worried about Milo. Milo and probably Leslie Jones are vaulted in their popularity and support, at least by their own camps, by this whole debacle. That's not what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the rest of us who are attempting to use what is a large social platform to engage with people and to try to work out ideas in the marketplace of ideas and that sort of thing. And this shit test by Milo Yiannopoulos is just a sign, it's a warning sign, it's a canary in a coal mine. That's what I think is important about this whole issue. And now we'll get to the comment left by GeoAngle on my video on the Twitter issue with Milo Yiannopoulos. I pay lots of attention to you because I respect you and because I love a good, honest argument. And obviously I very much appreciate that. He says, so now you have me wondering how you would go about getting yourself banned from Twitter. What do you think it would take, and how low are you willing to go to make a point? After about 30 seconds of reflection after I made the last video, I have no plans in trying to get myself banned from Twitter. I'll just close my account if I decide to do that. I think that's the way to do it, maintaining my own integrity, because I do think I would probably have to sink a little bit low in order to do it, in order to get sort of noticed. Although, based on some of the things I've seen, I know which direction I would go. My direction would be against typically left-leaning social justice warriors. That's how I would accomplish it. I probably would not side with ISIS or anything like that, because that doesn't seem to get one banned necessarily. Anyway, or Black Lives Matter, people shouting for, killing cops and that sort of thing. That doesn't seem to do it all the time, without some other urgings or campaign, at least from what I've seen. As for this Milo guy, he is laughing all the way to the bank. His fame has shot up astronomically. He's on the news everywhere, and he couldn't get better publicity than that, and I would still ban him. Well, yes, you're right. He has gotten good publicity from this, although Milo was not real short on publicity. It sounds like you didn't know him too well. He's not real short on publicity. Again, I think this was not the shit test. I think that Milo was provocateuring. He's a self-proclaimed dissident, so that's sort of what he does. A lot of people don't like it. I see people like him as important, even if I disagree with a lot of the things that they say and do, because he is a shit test. He is a canary in a coal mine. More importantly, more concerned about how governments respond to him. However, I think in this case, it was a great shit test for Twitter, even if I still don't think this individual incident was provocateured by him. And you say you would still ban him. I would like to know from you on what terms, because I don't think he violated the terms of service in this instance. Here's why. As I see it, Twitter's whole business model is connecting celebrities with their fans and vice versa. It's kind of a free and always at hand People magazine. That celebrity may be a Hollywood type or a political type, but if you don't have 1 million or so followers, but you attack someone who does and do it crudely, guess who's going to be banned? On the other hand, when Kanye West and Taylor Swift go at each other on Twitter and/or other media, neither of them will be banned so long as they keep the language clean with no physical threats. Well, I agree partially there. I'm not sure that's a reason to ban someone, because again, your terms of service have to be where you lay that out. I don't think there's any point in having a terms of service if you as the company are not going to abide by the same terms of service. That's the agreement between you and the customer, whoever the customer happens to be. Also, both people in this instant were political and or media celebrities, Hollywood celebrities. I don't know what the following is between Leslie Jones and Milo Yiannopoulos, but they're both essentially celebrities. I've looked through the Twitter Wikipedia and some other Twitter information. I can't really see where they developed it to be having it originate as a means for celebrities to connect with their fans. There seems to be a lot of different iterations of Twitter, if you will, even though it's always been Twitter, in the way it's sort of morphed and changed. And I use Twitter actually. I have several Twitter accounts, and so I use it. I've got some gaming Twitter accounts as well. I have several. I've got about 5 or 6 different Twitter accounts right now, just because I use them in different ways to communicate with other like-minded people, none of whom are celebrities. The only celebrities that I actually follow on Twitter are on my Capricious Black Box page, a Twitter account. And so whether or not that's their goal, I don't know. It's kind of become that in a lot of ways. But keep in mind, the trending topics, the real motive force, I think, often behind Twitter is in the little people, not the big people. So there's an opportunity there, I think, for Twitter, if they're looking at this and saying, well, we don't want to damage the wrong crowd. I think they've got to juxtapose the celebrity versus the hundreds of thousands or even millions of people that might be affected by affecting a celebrity, for instance. So I'm not sure. But I still don't think that is justification for a ban if the ban can't be quantified through the terms of service. Because again, that's a bilateral agreement, right? As far as I'm concerned. Otherwise, there's no point in having it. You just say, hey, we're just judge, jury, and executioner. We ban people at will, right? And then he goes on to say, revising history, whose tweets do you think count as historic? Trump's, of course. Donald Trump, because they are his primary political communications. Every one of us knows more about Trump from his tweets than we do from anything he says in his speeches. Tweets are perfect for him because they match his attention span, and he's got a big smiley face there. Well, when I talk about revising history, what I'm talking about specifically is the claim that's made, and I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know the veracity of this claim, but the claim that's made that trending topics about Milo Yiannopoulos have disappeared. And so what we're talking about when it comes to revisionist history there is that the masses, the masses of us lowly peasant types are what create trending. That's what it takes to trend a topic is a mass movement. And if those trending topics are really disappearing from the feed because they relate to something that Twitter has deemed to be not politically correct, that is definitely revisionist history. That is an attempt to remove an entire popular movement from the record. And keep in mind, Twitter is now a part of the public record. For instance, we've seen in Canada and probably other places where tweets are being entered into the court. They formed the foundation of lawsuits and court cases, and they've been primary source of evidence for said court cases. So I think an attempt to revise history and then, sort of make those records available later if they're subpoenaed or something, I think that's a little bit disingenuous, especially, again, when it is something that represents a movement, right? Trending topics, for instance. So, and I would actually say individuals as well. Why are you removing this outside of something that would be, a very clear incitement to very serious harm? And even then, I'm not certain. But that's what I was referring to there. In summary, when you see Twitter banning Trump or any other political figure, then you have something to complain about. Well, then I'm complaining because I think Milo Yiannopoulos is quite a political figure. And if you don't know that much about him, you need to check it out because he is, whether you disagree with him or not, he's quite a vocal, yes, he's not a political figure in terms of running for office somewhere, but he is a political figure in terms of being a spokesperson for particular ideologies or movements or ideas, right? Meanwhile, I said all along that Twitter is not the medium for you because you aren't the type who competes for the most fans while using 240 character messages. So you should boycott Twitter, but the sad thing is that Twitter won't even notice. Well, yeah, it's 140 characters, and I agree, you're right. That's not my shtick, is using, how do I keep to 140 characters? This video is already too long. As an afterthought, Miss Jones is also benefiting from the controversy. I didn't know who this Milo guy was, and I really didn't care who the Jones woman is. It is only after I looked into the whole media buzz about Milo Yiannopoulos and Leslie Jones that I saw who she is and made the connection that she is in an Allstate ad. I wondered who that unattractive woman was who supposedly must be famous. Now I know, and I think everybody gains from it, and you're probably right there. Milo gets famous beyond his talent. You might want to look into him a little bit more. Ms. Jones gets even more famous beyond her talent. Guys on the far right get to feel aggrieved and victimized, and even Twitter will have more traffic as people tweet their complaints about Twitter to each other. Win, win, win. And so in conclusion, in far greater than 440 characters, I think you're probably right. There is a bit of a win-win here for Milo and Leslie Jones, both in the aggregate. Twitter, I'm not so sure. I think we'll have to wait and see, and a lot of that will depend on whether or not there is ever an alternate platform established for people who really want to engage in the way that, we want to make sure that there's some freedom there on the platform. I do believe, and I can't prove this, but I think that Milo's ban was partially ideologically motivated. I don't think Jack and the other people at Twitter much like him and his particular viewpoint. I would say a small bit of evidence for that is the fact that he didn't actually violate the terms of service in this particular incident. And I would also say that Leslie Jones, I do feel a little bit for the situation that she was put in. The harshness of some of the tweets that she received is pretty much off the scale. Now, she does bear some responsibility for that because she did I mean, she wasn't afraid to come back very harshly herself. And I think that she probably helped. Actually, if anyone incited some stuff there, it might have been her in an attempt to sort of this reactionary attempt to defend herself. She was very aggressive about doing that. And she may have received far more abuse than she would have otherwise. And she would be wise to understand that these are trolling comments, trolling behaviors, and the best response to a troll is typically no response at all. As has been pointed out by many, that block button and the mute button, all those things are already in place within the Twitter platform to deal with people that you don't want to hear from. Ultimately, my video is not about Milo Yiannopoulos. It's about what this signals to me and other people. And there have been some inklings of this before. There are a lot of people who have documented that I've seen some activity by ISIS on Twitter that doesn't seem to get moderated, some activity by people who would otherwise be claiming to be supporters of Black Lives Matter that have called for or celebrated the killing of police officers that has either not been moderated or was only moderated after a campaign was launched to get that dealt with. As compared with, what we see here with Milo. Yes, he's a provocateur. And yes, I have to always say, I don't agree with everything he says. Like I agree with everything anyone else says. I don't even agree with this guy on everything that he says half the time. But you have to agree with his right to say it in a free and open society. And yes, again, I understand that Twitter is a private company. That's why I'm suggesting that we find another platform, not suggest that we do something to this one. They're welcome to have their platform. That's fine. If they want to have an echo chamber, then they're welcome to it. I don't really want to be a part of an echo chamber. So we'll see where all this goes. I hope I got my viewpoint across, and especially the part about the revisionist history. Because again, Twitter is a platform of public record. It's been used in courts of law, and trending topics, if there is any monkey business happening with those, that is an attempt to quash the appearance of mass movements. And that I don't think is cool. One last thing. It's been said to me by several commenters that Milo Yiannopoulos is essentially a mouthpiece for the conservative movement, and that the conservatives are constantly sort of playing the victim by saying, our speech is being stifled in this arena or that arena. And, this is emblematic of things like, the war on Christmas that Bill O'Reilly screams about all the time. I commented back to another person on the comment section of my recent video. I said, it always strikes me when I see people with these stickers on their cars locally here that say, keep Christ in Christmas. And I think to myself, well, you keep Christ in Christmas. Don't tell me what to do. No one's stopping you, right? No one's stopping you from saying Merry Christmas either. Or the other stuff that they do, when secularists try to get religious references removed from state buildings and schools and things like that. And this is a war on, but there is a culture war, though, I think that underpins all this. It's a reason I wish that conservatives would keep it to the real, because there is a real culture war, and there is some victimization of conservative speech out there. There's a lot of no platforming that goes on at different university campuses, and lest you think that's not all that important, this is where the next generation is being enculturated, right? Is at these university campuses. And there are some real grievances on the right. Now, I'm not a conservative. I have some conservative views and a lot of liberal views. I'm an independent. But I do see some of the grievances that are actually there, that exist. I think the recent controversy over Facebook's censoring of their news feed, this obviously the Milo Yiannopoulos Twitter ban, and also the typically left-wing media's treatment of this whole Milo Yiannopoulos ban. And when I say left-wing media, I mean the mainstream media, which is typically left-biased. They have come out, multiple large news organizations have painted the story that Milo Yiannopoulos was directly inciting people to gang up on Leslie Jones. This is dishonest, but not only is it dishonest, I think it represents a dereliction of duty. The duty amongst these news organizations to report the facts in an unbiased manner and paint an accurate picture that's a reflection of what actually took place. And I don't think it takes much to determine that this was done knowingly, because all one has to do is read the Twitter exchange between Milo Yiannopoulos and Leslie Jones to see that this was essentially a disagreement that spiraled out of control into some hurling of insults and name-calling by both parties, I might add. that precipitated in Leslie Jones attempting to bring the banhammer down on Milo Yiannopoulos. At no point did he try to motivate a force to go and attack and harass her. And this is not at all unlike the recent Twitter harassment trial here in Canada, where if anyone goes through and reads the Twitter exchange between the man and the woman involved, or women involved, it's pretty easy to see what actually took place there, and the kind of spiraling out of control of a once potentially mutually beneficial relationship. But the media's portrayal of it, the media narrative, is sort of bad man attacks good woman. And this is not supported by the facts. And of course, thankfully, it was not supported by the court's ruling in that case. The media has some complicity, I think, when it comes to these issues. So yes, I think there is some grievance on the right with regards to the kind of culture war that we're engaged in nowadays. And it would be nice to see some honesty in the reporting of these events. Let me know, as always, what you think. Thanks for watching.